Dear friends, the Arlesdale Railway is a narrow gauge line which runs inland along a beautiful valley. It starts at the terminus of Duck's branch line, and Duck and Oliver bring many visitors. So many, in fact, that Rex, Bert, and Mike found that they couldn't carry them all on their own. And that was why Jock was built. I like Jock. I hope you will too. The author. Back in the year 1967, a book about the small railway was being published. It had the stories about how Doug helped make their railway have more attention, Bert's experience with two photographers, Mike's adventure with his whistle and then losing it, and Rex's time when he had a crazy accident. They were very excited. Not long after their true stories happened in real life, the railway had a new engine named Frank. He's as small as them, and yet he's not even a steam engine. In fact, he's a diesel engine. But the four engines still work very hard together and make sure their railway runs properly. When the day for the book to be published came, they were very excited. But Frank was the most excited, even though he wasn't on the railway when the book was being written.
Oh, this is going to be very exciting. I wonder if I'm going to be in it. That would be even better.
The other engines looked at each other, trying to think of how to explain to him. But thankfully, Fergus Duncan, the small controller, spoke to him about it.
I'm afraid you won't, Frank.
What? Why not?
Well, you weren't here when the events happened, so it wouldn't make sense for you to be all of a sudden be in it for no purpose. Plus, the Reverend doesn't know who you are since you barely came to this railway. Maybe the next time he writes a book about this railway, he'll know exactly who you are, and then you can be in the next book.
But Frank didn't like the sound of any of what Fergus Duncan just said. It got him into a very bad mood. The next day, his driver tried to get him to start for the day, but he wouldn't move at all.
Come on, Frank. What's the matter with you?
Well, it's just not fair. Why can't I just be in the book? The pastors will only pay attention to the others, but not me.
Oh, come on, Frank. It's about teamwork on this really matters, not about a book.
I don't care. I just want to be in one.
Then there was trouble. Frank started all of a sudden and went backwards all the way to the back of the shed. Luckily, no one was hurt, but the back of the shed he was in now has a crack on it. He felt very silly. He felt even more silly when Fergus Duncan came to the sheds to check out the damage he'd caused. He was cross with Frank and told him to start working right away while he checks the sheds to make sure it's safe. Meanwhile, that afternoon, Rex was taking passengers in a really heavy train. The guard blew his whistle, and Rex set off. He didn't think the train was too heavy for him until they came to a hill. His driver was paying attention to the steam gauge to make sure it didn't go over the red spot and cause any trouble.
Everything seems to be okay. Rex, maybe there won't be any trouble after all.
But he was wrong. Rex felt more and more exhausted by the time they reached the bottom of the hill. By the time they made it to the next station, he was very tired and had no more steam left. So his driver called for help from the phone that was in him. In fact, all the small engines now have phones in them in case of an emergency. And this was before cell phones were even invented.
Rex is out of puff. He can't go any further. Can you send some help for us, please?
Of course we can. Don't bother moving an inch.
Ha ha, very funny. Of course we won't move. I don't have any steam left in me.
Chill out, Rex. He's only joking.
A few minutes later, Bert and Frank came to help Rex in his train. Rex's driver apologized for the train running late to the passengers, but they didn't mind. For a minute they thought they had to walk.
You know what I think we need? Another engine. I don't think 4 is enough on this railway.
I quite agree with you, Bert. We're overworking ourselves out.
Rex was uncoupled to the train, and Bert took him to the shed since it was now safe to go in there, while Frank took the passengers to the next station. After he made it to the station, he told Fergus Duncan about what happened. He was surprised and was thinking to himself out loud.
Sounds like we need a new engine to help us right away.
That's exactly what Bert said. The only question is, though, who will it be?
That's a good question. We'll just have to wait and see.
The holiday seasons were coming to a close. It was one heck of a busy year for the miniature railway, and Bert was very exhausted from all the hard work. Mike and Rex kept teasing him about it.
Oh dear, looks like poor old Bert is tired from taking passengers from the holidays once again. It's quite a shame of how strong these youngsters are, to the point where they're just way too heavy for Bert to pull.
What I think you need, my good friend, is getting some determination and sticking power in you. Then you wouldn't feel so tired after a hard day's work.
Pah! Sticking power over my funnel? I know that you two aren't any help. Besides, there's something wrong with me right now. I think it's from all that pushing and pulling coaches around during the holidays. If only you two know what it's like.
Before Rex or Mike can say anything, the fitter started explaining the problems to Bert.
Well, from the looks of things, you just need some new tubes. But we just do it right now since I didn't bring anything with me. Tell you what, why don't you just keep doing your job for now? And I'm sure I'll have those new tubes with me by winter time.
I don't think waiting till winter is a good time to wait just for new tubes. But at least the new engine will be here to help pass the time.
Wait, a new engine?
What new engine?
You two didn't hear the news. The small controller has decided that getting a new engine will help us around much better and much quicker than what we're already trying to do.
Well, do you know its name or what it looks like?
It's unclear on that right now. He didn't go full detail on that, but we'll have to wait and see by the time it gets here. Well, I guess this better start moving this train to the next station.
Bert pulled the train just fine for a while, but his tubes were getting a bit worse already. When he was at the next station, trouble already began.
Well, time to move again. Let's go. Come along. Ouch!
The coaches jerked hard and the coupler snapped. Bert immediately stopped. His driver took a look to see what the problem was.
It looks like the coupling of your tender just snapped, so I'm afraid we won't go anywhere for a while till someone brings us a spare coupling.
Are you serious? Mike and Rex will be teasing me about this tonight and won't let me forget it for a long time. Talk about sticking around.
But that gave his driver an idea.
That's it! I've got an idea.
Before Bert can even ask what he's talking about, his driver already ran in the station and soon came out with a small box.
Driver, what are you doing?
This is a box of glue. It'll definitely help you from not detaching from your train again.
Oh, please. Like that's going to work. I mean, what if it's not the type that's strong enough, or I'll be stuck forever?
But his driver ignored him and went to work.
Well, this is going to be embarrassing for me. Now I'm 100% sure that Mike and Rex will be teasing me about this. You know what? This might actually work.
Bert came up with a clever idea to stop Mike and Rex from teasing him. At last, his driver finished gluing Bert and the coaches together.
All right, Bert, I'm all done. The station master already told the passengers what happened, and they don't mind being late at all. So let's take it slow and easy, all right?
Bert agreed, and he slowly started making his journey to the next station. It was a lot of work, but he managed to make it without any problems. At last, they made it to the station. All the passengers cheered for him, and he was tired even more. That night, Mike and Rex came to the sheds looking tired.
Phew, I'm glad the day is over and done with.
Yeah, but at least we're working as hard as Bert. I don't know how he does it. He makes it look so easy.
You thought me pulling the heavy coaches was tiring work? Let me tell you how today was for me.
And he told them about the whole glue experience. They were very surprised to see such a thing.
Talk about sticking power, am I right? Oh well, accidents happen now and again. We all learn from them. Now we better get some shut-eye for another day's work. Good night!
Mike and Rex couldn't believe what they just heard. As for Bert, he went happily asleep knowing that he taught them a lesson that would be ready for another day. One evening at the sheds, Bert was telling the others about what he was thinking.
Do you know what I think?
I don't know. You going to try getting another photo without getting mud all over you this time?
Very funny. But you come up with any ideas?
Yeah, whatever. Now what are you thinking?
Well, it has to do with a new engine. I think it's getting built at the Steamworks.
At the Steamworks? What makes you think that?
Well, when I was there getting my new tubes, I noticed Kevin bringing in a cargo full of engine parts, and the workmen immediately started opening it. And I wondered if it has to do with the new engine that'll be working on our railway. My driver also noticed it too, and he told your drivers about it as well.
Oh my, I wonder what he looks like.
It's a mystery for us right now. Maybe you should ask your drivers what they think from the rumor that's going around.
Those words were stuck in their head for the rest of the night. They were curious about the new engine even more. The next day, Mike was getting ready for the day's work as he knew he had to ask his driver.
Excuse me, driver. Do you know who the engine is and what his name is?
How do you know about the rumor?
Bert told us about what he and his driver saw in the Steamworks, and what it may possibly be.
Well, no one knows what the new engine looks like yet, and I don't think the small controller chose a name for him yet as well. We'll just have to wait and see for now.
That made the engines feel a bit better, but they were still curious about it. A few weeks later, they got the news that the new engine had arrived. They were very excited and went to the station immediately to visit it. When they got to the station, they were surprised. It was a tender engine like most of them, painted yellow like a flower and looked like he had a great personality. They had no idea what to say.
Well, this is odd.
You're telling me his color looks weird.
No, he doesn't. I think he looks great.
Then the engine spoke.
I think I look great too. However, my driver said that I will have a different coat paint layer because this is apparently my undercoat.
Before any of the engines could say anything else, Duck and Douglas arrived dropping off some empty freight cars. They too were surprised at him as well. Oh my! What a smart-looking engine for this railway to have! He reminds me of Matty's back in Scotland. Because the engines in the Highlands used to have a yellow type of color. We used to call them Jocks. Oh, what interesting color they used to have.
Jock? I think I finally know what my name should be.
I think it's a smart choice. It really suits you. The small controller liked the name as well, and agreed to call the new engine Jock.
This will mean that you'll have to keep your undercoat, just so your new name will fit you.
That's okay, sir. I don't mind at all. I love it.
Everyone was happy, and blew their whistles with joy, as Douglas left feeling proud with himself for helping the new engine find his new name, now named Jock. Jock started working on the Arlesdale Railway not too long ago, and yet he had already proved himself that he's a hard worker and really reliable. He even worked twice as hard when the holiday seasons arrived. He was even stronger than the other engines on the railway. Most of the time, the passengers would always be excited to see Jock, and some of them were a ride from him on purpose. All that made Jock get into his smoke box, and made him think he's the best thing that ever happened to him. One day, a lorry was supposed to bring a load to Nefford Station, but it broke down along the way, and thankfully, Fergus Duncan was there to see the problem.
I was supposed to drop this off to Sir Topham Hatt, but now I can't because my truck just broke down. Am I going to do?
Don't worry, one of my engines is close by from here. I'll have him get a flatbed and he'll drop it off for you.
The lorry driver was very pleased. When Jock arrived with a flatbed, the load got on and Jock set off. He was being useful once again, but he was being very cocky at the sheds that night.
I just don't get it. What's even the point about road vehicles driving with packages if we can just do the same? I think they should just let useful engines like me do that type of job instead of trucks like those.
The other engines were very annoyed with him. They were trying to figure out how to get his head out of his boiler and understand the reality of their railway. The next day, Mike was asked to take a train of passengers on a journey. He's not a fan of taking passengers, but he wants to show that he too can be a really useful engine. But then came trouble. He saw Jock backing down towards him and was being coupled up with each other.
Wait, what is this? I can pull these coaches just fine. I don't need help.
Sorry, Mike, but the small controller has asked me to help you pull this train. Plus, the party on this train has come to see me the most, so I happily said that I can help.
Oh, really? Then you better not have me pushing you while I'm pulling this train at the same time.
That gave him a splendid idea. He whispered it to his driver, and he agreed to it.
We'll do it after we get to the water tower.
Everything was going smoothly like clockwork. There wasn't any trouble during their journey. But when they got to the water tower, Mike started his plan. Mike cut off steam and let Jock do the job. Jock was going a bit slower now. He didn't know that he was pulling both Mike and the heavy train at the same time. Mike was enjoying the sight of seeing him struggle. He thought it would show him how hard a really useful engine works. But then Jock's driver looked back to see what was going on, and he saw the situation and told him about it. When they made it to the station, Jock started talking to Mike.
Boy, that was an exhausting job. Are you feeling tired, Mike?
I can see where you're going with this. So I'll just cut to the point. I thought it would be nice for you to have all the fun, so I didn't bother spoiling it and making you all upset.
Oh, I see. I was wondering if I was going too fast on you, but I see what you mean now.
Wait, too fast? You thought we were going too fast? Oh, just you wait. I'll show you.
But before he can, Jock chuckled and immediately left, leaving Mike to do the train by himself. When it was time to leave, he started to go really fast and his driver was worried.
Steady, Mike. We're not having a race.
Pah! That's what you think. But I want to show how fast I can really be.
When he came back to the water tower, his driver tried to let the water down his boiler, but it wouldn't work. Something was wrong with his boiler. The injector had failed.
Oh dear, please give me water. I feel like I'm gonna burst.
Sorry, but your injector has failed. I'll just call for help.
After his driver finished talking on the radio, he told Mike what would happen.
Jock is the only engine available to help. We'll just have to deal with it.
Mike was shocked. He didn't like hearing that, but there was no other choice. So when Jock arrived, he was coupled onto the other side of the train and set off. He was taking the passengers to the big station, while Mike was sent to the sheds to be fixed. He was fixed when all the other engines arrived. He felt much better and apologized to Jock.
I'm sorry, Jock, for making you do all the work. And thanks for taking the passengers for the rest of the ride, along with taking me back to the sheds.
That's alright, Mike. Besides, while I was taking the passengers to the station, I realized how silly I was for going over my boiler and thinking I was the best engine on this railway. If I wasn't like that earlier today, then your injector wouldn't have failed. So I think we both learned a lesson today.
I agree. It's not about being the best or teasing others. It's about teamwork and being really useful.
The other engines were happy to know that everything was going well now, and Jock felt very happy that he's now part of the Arlesdale Railway.